Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about the Creature Commandos and why it gets review bombed by these Snyder fans. If you don't know, the Snyder fans originate from the Snyderverse. The Snyderverse is actually the world created by Zack Snyder during his tenure of the DC universe. Obviously he made Man of Steel, he made the Justice League or part of it, and he also made various different director cuts to his films like Batman vs Superman, or obviously the Justice League film that actually lasts for about 4 hours, which is kind of interesting because Snyder or Zack Snyder was the one who actually made the old DC universe. He made Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, and like all the stories that actually were after Man of Steel were actually originated by him, or were actually produced by him, or were actually set by the rules of his universe. Like for example, Superman was to be characterized as like a god, which is kind of interesting. Batman is obviously this rich man who doesn't really have a lot of powers, but he's still on the same level as Superman because he can actually fight him. We could have seen that. Obviously, we could see that obviously in Batman versus Superman, and also like there are numerous other details that Zack Snyder obviously set up for his world. But what does it have to do with the Creature Commandos? Well, Creature Commandos is the first project which is made by James Gunn. James Gunn is obviously the new head, the new producer of the DC films and series and video games, and he is obviously the director of already the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker Season 1 and also Peacemaker Season 2, the Creature Commandos he also produced, and he has also made the Guardians of the Galaxy films, obviously wrote the Scooby-Doo films, and he wants the DC universe to be more, I guess, colorful, right? The Snyderverse was very dark, very brutal, and very gothic, I would say. Like it was very dark sometimes, like the color grading was also very, I guess, yeah, just dark in general. A lot of white, a lot of darkness, a lot of black. So there we go. But obviously, the James Gunn universe, he wanted to be more colorful. Obviously, I had the discussion with a few friends a few years ago, actually saying, well, you know what, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very fun. It has a lot of different humorous characters, but that's also their downfall because the Marvel films heavily lean towards like the humor and the heroes making pop culture references and stuff like that, which kind of, I find a bit tiresome. Like obviously it's Marvel, they produce and make a lot of TV shows and films, and they're also going to be settling down with a few less films and a few less series throughout the years, which is kind of good because they have this quality over quantity. But a few years ago it was quantity over quality, so they produce like 8 things a year, which is kind of insane to say. But James Gunn, he wants to take a focus on his new DC universe. He obviously wrote the Creature Commandos, he produced that show. He also made the Suicide Squad, which was a very entertaining film. I've got to say, I really want to rewatch it at some point because it's about like the characters, the stories, and that's it, right? There is nothing really special about it. He really wants to focus on like having a good script and obviously leaning in towards like the origins of like certain characters instead of like remaking their backstories. Like for example, he greenlit the I think it was the 2 Robin films, like Nightwing and Red Hood, because he really liked the story and he really wanted to work with an animation studio for it, which is kind of new. It's really nice that he delves into the new special materials like animation or claymation or whatever it's called, for a new story, telling the story of Red Hood and Nightwing together. He also wants to make a Clayface movie, which is kind of random, but I think it could work. Like, if you have like a Clayface horror film, like you could just name it Clayface, put the DC branding on it, but it doesn't really need to connect to anything else. Like if it's a great horror film, people are going to watch it anyway, right? And it will also have a budget of around like 40 million, which is a lot. But there are certain films from like Sony, which obviously have the Sony universe, Spider-Man universe thing around them, like Morbius or Kraven the Hunter or Venom 1, 2, and 3. They have a lot of budget, but they don't really do well in the box office, right? So James Gunn is going to lean into the stories first off, and he's going to make the stories which aren't really that popular with a less budget than the normal. Like, you know, for example, if he's going to make Batman the Brave and the Bold film, this is going to be very expensive to make, obviously, but it will cash in, right? Batman is a very famous name. Clayface isn't really famous, but I think if it's a great story, he's going to get that money back. So he's very smart on how he does things, and I really respect him for that, because he's going to make some really interesting things like Superman. He directed too, and Peacemaker season 2, and yeah, he's going to focus on the stories first of all, which is something very interesting, and I really like that, because he doesn't really want to make like, he's not going to say that he's going to make, okay, I'm going to make a Batman film 1, 2, and 3 that's going to be published in a few years. You'll watch it. No, he'll stick with like one story at first. If that story does great, he's going to lean into the second story and going to forward and forward, right? Which is really interesting. He already announced certain projects like the Green Lantern show, which is already written and will be like filmed coming months or something, or is already being filmed. Yeah, he's going to make it more, you know, science fiction-ish. He's not going to lean towards like the I would say like the Green Lantern film from was it like 2010, I don't know, 10 or something. That's with Ryan Reynolds. Obviously it wasn't great because I'm not quite sure, like, you know, the story was a bit off, right? But he's going to make the Green Lantern show very well written. He's going to lean and focus on the greatness of the story, right? Like he does in Guardians of the Galaxy and also the Suicide Squad. He's not afraid to kill off certain people, which is quite interesting. Like he said in the Suicide Squad, or he showed in Suicide Squad, we started off with a crew of like 12 people, and the only people that actually lived at the end were like 4 of them. So I guess he's not afraid to kill off certain characters, but obviously he's not scared to actually bring them back at some points too. Which makes sense. If it's great for the story, it's great for the film, right? It's great for the show too, and I think that's his quote, right? If something works, and if the story is good enough, he'll make it. And I'm really happy that he's doing it. But the Snyder fans are just, yeah, pain in the ass, man. They just want Zack Snyder to direct everything, but times change, and you can just shut up, bro. Like the Snyder fans, I'm not quite sure that I didn't really like the darkness of the old DC Zack Snyder verse. I really like the colorful things about the DC. Like DC has a lot of gods, a lot of creatures, a lot of science fiction elements, and yeah, like Darkseid, he doesn't really need to be angry and grey and stuff like that. You know, Darkseid can have his league of his own, like the Legion of Doom, but also like the crew that he works with, Glenn Goodness and this, things like that. They're very random characters too, but I think if you were to make a story, you could lean into the different aspects of like the mythical, the science fiction, and that's really interesting because the Snyderverse was leaning more into the realistic seriousness of it all, and then obviously the Suicide Squad released, and that was great. We had the Birds of Prey film, which I think was really interesting. Wonder Woman was also very cool and good. I wanted to combine those two words, but yeah, I really like the films that really make a great story, right, and really lean toward the craziness of its characters, right. For example, Batman can be very serious, but obviously we have Robin to counteract the seriousness of Batman, and obviously the villains of Batman are very weird itself. Like, come on, guys. At DC Universe needs to have like a certain strength to it, and I think hopefully one day James Gunn is going to establish a great universe that everyone will love, and I'm here to respect him in that way. So ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I just talked and yapped about different things that I would like to see in the future of DC Universe, but because I'm really hyped, I really recommend the Creature Commandos. It's a really fun show, and I can't bloody wait for the Superman film, and hopefully the trailer will be released by the time you're watching this video, obviously. But alright, ladies and gentlemen, I will check you later. Goodbye, everyone.